Free to be 5D, Navigating Ascension from the Inside Out. This book is dedicated to the star seeds, the misfits, the black sheeps, the rebels, the visionaries, the feelers, the healers, and all of us who are just way too sensitive for this 3D world. It is also dedicated to my beloved SoulFullHeart community, and especially to my amazingly supportive soulmate, Jelelle Awen. Your living out of the process as your way of life on a daily basis for all these years with me has grounded it into the world as an embodied reality that can more increasingly be shared with others. Finally, this is dedicated to every soul, every amazing woman I have been blessed to hold space for in the last several years. Thank you for the inspiration, the learning, the growth, and the dedication that lives within you toward healing yourself and the world. Chapter 1: The Cycle of Fragmentation. This is awakening, to trust what you are becoming, to let go of what isn't you and never really was, in order to return to and remember who you really are. This is the unfolding, arising, surrendering process that the divine energies all around you are supporting. This is awakening. To let go of others that can't see you, can't let in your love, or your light, or all of what awakens as your soul comes through. And you can invite them to come along, yet without settling, shrinking, or grabbing at them. Your energy of openness, readiness, and desire, while not compromising or playing games, is what invites them to be the same or to move on. To release the need to convince, contend, or prove to others. Even as you teach, lead, respond, and offer them your soul gifts, healing heart, and growing sense of infinite possibilities. As you share what you are here to offer as a soul from a place of authenticity, so you become a mirror for those who are ready and meant to see and be this as well. This is awakening. To feel what is real within your heart and soul, what has been contained, restrained, reframed, conditioned, and now wants to leak, peak, burst, purge, open, reveal, and heal. This revealing gives others the space and inspiration to be real too, allowing a new, deeper intimacy to flow between you. This is the personal disclosure process inside that leads to a life experienced as transparent and open and current, with nothing to hide, no compartments, no bubbles that need bursting. As you are loving all that you are, and so experience a life that is reflecting the same. Introduction. As I was getting ready to do the final edits on this book and release it in March 2020, this global event, referred to as COVID-19, has been occurring and has altered life as we've known it, altered my plans on many levels, and shifted my focus. Due to what is being falsely called a deadly and contagious virus, most of the world has shut down their borders, closed all non-essential businesses and schools. People have retreated into their homes and overall remained socially distant from others. Some countries and states have been completely locked down, with only trips to the grocery store and the hospital allowed. Although evidence is increasingly coming out that this virus is no more deadly than the seasonal flu or cold, the completion dates of this shutdown state are unknown to most of us at this time. As I'm writing this, it feels like a surreal dream, an alternative timeline that humanity has suddenly found itself wandering down. It feels like we are acting out an all too familiar play, movie, or a television show. This scenario being in fact the story and plot line of many of them. While everyday life routines have been paused for so many people, there are, whether consciously or unconsciously, turning inward into researching and learning about the state of the world in a deeper way. This event has moved us into deeper stages and phases of our awakening, and therefore feels like it is providing necessary sparks to ignite the death and rebirth phase that is needed to collapse and transform the current structures that our souls have long awaited and even chose to be here at this time to witness and participate in. My daily life has changed very little during this event, as I have worked from home, offering SoulFullHeart sessions remotely for over 3 years now. I rarely went out other than for occasional shopping trips and daily nature walks, which fortunately are still allowed where I live in Victoria, BC, Canada. Social events were almost always hosted in my home or someone else's as part of our small community anyway. The biggest change has come in the delay of our plans to relocate to Europe by a few months. Yet even this is unknown at the moment. If we will be able to, and what state the world will be at the time. It has been interesting to view and digest this event from a higher perspective as an ambassador of love, rather than feeling it as personally triggering for me or my soul on a more basic level. I haven't felt any fear or panic about catching the virus, yet more fascination and curiosity at how all the different timelines and people's reactions are now playing out in response to this scenario. I have felt guided to read up on it in order to understand these timelines and feel a heart of compassion for all involved, to which many people have graciously responded and thanked me for sharing that perspective. My particular context and vantage point in relation to this global event has to do with the SoulFullHeart process that I describe in this book of deeply feeling and digesting trauma from this life, as well as karmic wounded frequencies from other lifetimes. This allows for less reactivity and charge as world events unfold and more trust and surrender into the divine holding of it all, even as there are dark energies and agendas at play at the same time. This is giving me a real-time, embodied sense experience of what I am offering you in this book. And it is from this place that I and my husband Raphael and other close beloveds have been serving others during this time as lighthouses of love ambassadorship in the churning storm. Never before has there been the poignant opportunities for soul growth and healing quite like the ones offered to us here, now. As I feel a significant collapse is occurring in both the 3D and 4D matrix control systems, more on this to come, some of what I have shared in this book almost seems irrelevant now. Yet also, there's still deep internalization of this matrix programming from this lifetime and many of our lifetimes since the fall of Atlantis that still requires many layers of digestion and feeling to move through. I hope that the information I share here will find resonance within you and also be an opportunity for ongoing self-discovery that continues to open up in meaningful ways as you engage with it. As our outer world transitions, so will our inner worlds need to change to respond to it. Inner discovery in this way remains the primary source of the collective ascension process that is now entering new phases of more intense revelation, rebellion, and eventually liberation for all sentient beings on this planet. I feel ever more appreciative as we navigate through this world-changing event that the SoulFullHeart process provides a unique and effective means for navigating and embodying this transition into new earth realities. It is definitely my shelter in the storm, as it has been for others engaging in it as well. I'm glad you are here to consider if it is a fit for you and your journey. It has been over 3 years now, since July 2016, that I started sharing my teachings and serving others through blog and social media posts, books, videos, individual and group sessions. At that time, I was coming out of a deep seclusion at an off-grid ranch in Mexico, without internet, phone, city water, or electricity. I was honestly used to seeing more sheep than people on a daily basis. My 19 months on the ranch, from December 2014 until July 2016, were a time of reboot for me, where I went into a deep communion with nature, with my soul, and with my very small community that included my mate Raphael and our students' friends Gabriel and Kalena. My soul lined up many intimate and personal awakenings for me during those months on the ranch, including curious galactic activations and realization of star being realities, such as the 3D, 4D matrix, reptilians, and my own abductions and visits with star family that I finally could remember and process. I had Kundalini energy surges where I was blissfully altered for hours and days, not able to remember the name of a spoon that I held in my hand, and tuned into the molecular, crystalline structure of all living things. I felt my mind reboot from being left brain focused to even more right brain. One of my biggest and dearest realizations during these states was connecting to the non-linear nature of reality and the remembrance of my soul essence as infinite love. I rediscovered the power of visualization journeys that were very natural and familiar to me since my earliest days of childhood. While in meditative states, I journeyed to Avalon, Golden Earth, 5D Earth, my star family's light ship, and many other places. I'd been connecting with parts of myself for many years through journaling and verbal dialogue, yet these opened out meditative journeys with them greatly accelerated the process of healing, especially on the soul level. This is when I really transcended the 3D ideas and conditionings around linear time and past lives and began to let my soul's multidimensional nature truly take the lead, especially seeing that past lives aren't really past at all, but accessible and happening in the now. I've since chosen to call them other timelines or lifetimes. All of this helped anchor my consciousness into the quantum field of now, beyond the veil of amnesia, where the soul and its multidimensionality is truly accessible to us. Unplugging from all TV shows, news, and other forms of entertainment for over a year naturally helped further open and activate my intuitive and empathic gifts. This also awakened in a deeper way my third eye clairvoyance, clairsentient knowing, clairaudience, and visualization abilities. I share this not from a place of boasting, but of claiming to have personally discovered and experienced what we all are in our essence. The experience of more can't really be claimed by any one individual anyway, as we are all one being awakening, yet with our unique stories that get to magically contribute to that. Even though I didn't have an audience for my writings, they came pouring out of me at the ranch, including 2 complete books. One of them, Keep Waking Up, is self-published and currently available. This book offers near daily journaling about a phase of intense awakening for me that spans about 4 months at the ranch. These experiences laid the foundation for so much of the teaching and offerings to come. There were times that I could barely put one word together as my mind was being upgraded and switched over to my multidimensional mind, we could call it. Yet I typed out what I could in the moment on an aging laptop as I was being strongly guided to write it all down so that I could share it later. I also had a period of time at the ranch with no female friendships and no women that I was holding space for, even though I had previously been an emotional, spiritual, and energy healer off and on for several years. During this time, I was guided to turn deeply inward and heal my sisterhood wound through experiencing a rich, nourishing, and unconditionally loving sisterhood that was accessible within my soul. I wanted to want to serve women, yet the truth was that parts of me weren't sure they even liked women, due to my difficult and conflictual experiences with my birth mother and other women in past friendships. There was a deep rejection wound inside of me that I could feel was there. The parts of me connected to this wound feared being rejected again, being hurt again, and not being seen in my bigness by other women. The arising desire to lead others brought up this wound to be felt and seen by me. I humbly admitted this to myself and close beloveds, and let the healing capacities of my own soul and divine love respond to it. My soul sisters began to come forward to me from beyond the veil, from other lifetimes and eras of time. As I mentioned, these were not just glimpses of past lives. They were fully available, accessible, and living in the now, just as I was. They were different from me in terms of their life experiences, yet their essences felt as familiar as a reunion with a twin sibling. We entered into a gift exchange healing space together, offering mutual benefits to each other, where no sister was above or below the other. They felt like the deepest and most meaningful of soul siblings, and yet the content of their lives was so different from mine. Over and over again, they would reassure me that this was the healing I most needed to be doing, to focus on inside along with them. I surrendered to turning my focus inward to serve love to myself in this way, rather than outward to others as I had done for so long. And even though I had no women in my life and was living in such an isolated environment within a foreign culture, I was repeatedly shown visions of myself holding space for women and leading women's circles in the near future. We eventually let go of the ranch, along with our deeply held vision of an off-grid, sustainable sanctuary and community that had originally led us to the ranch when life and necessity moved us a few hours away into the resort town of Puerto Vallarta in order to earn money, be online, and I didn't really know exactly. The divine guidance was clear, and once I got back online, a regular basis and off the ranch, the teachings began to pour out of me. Gone was the previous self-consciousness and judgmental filtering from parts of me in the past when I tried to share on social media. Gone were the push-pull mixed feelings around if I really wanted to share my soul wisdoms earned almost solely from personal, direct experience rather than from certifications, activation from others, and traditional learning methods. Gone were the feelings of self-doubt that I could offer anything of value or actually help others heal themselves. Gone were the strongest feelings of fear of being rejected, especially by women. Gone was the comparison to others and what they offered, judging myself because my spin and take on so many topics was so different from everyone else's. I was being invited to simply accept the divine's authorization to serve that is available and calls uniquely to each of us. This newfound confidence, clarity, and passion seemed to come in an ever-steady flow from a place now more integrated into my essence and a deep soul wisdom. I boldly shared many articles on metaphysical websites and eventually voice recordings of my writings and guided meditations. It was a welcome and grateful surprise to find that there was a resonant audience drawn to what I was increasingly sharing. This spurred me on and inspired me to share even more. I also self-published 2 books totaling almost 500 pages in 2017, Sacred Human Arising Wonder and Bliss Mess, which are compilations of the writings that I shared online. They are also available at SoulFullHeart.org. We dwelled in a very simple living spaces during the next 2 years in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We were a small community of 5, as my daughter eventually joined us there, spread out into 3 different apartments in the same old, falling-apart building with a $1 million view and close proximity to the Pacific Ocean. Our building was surrounded by other buildings and noisy occupants, yet tucked away quietly from the road and nestled into a draw on a steep hill, with our door up 200-plus steps from the ocean, affording us plenty of daily free exercise. While very different from off-grid ranch life, I was still surrounded by people speaking a language that I didn't know very well, in a culture that was so foreign-feeling to where I had lived up until that time, mostly in the Pacific Northwest of the United States and nearby in Vancouver, Canada. This focused my attention on the virtual, which felt as real to me as being in person. This allowed me to hold space over virtual sessions in a way that transcended the need to be in the physical with the women who began to be drawn to me for paid space holding. I actually found that it served the process in many ways to be more physically remote rather than in person. The interesting thing was that in the beginning and for most of the first year, I didn't really know what I was doing with them or where it was all leading us. I had a background and training in life business coaching and a few years practice as a parts work soul facilitator of a previous work I had been involved with. And I had my own personal experiences that just kept getting deeper, richer, and clearer. Plus, we shared often as a community what we were experiencing and processing, which helped me in my service to others as well. In October of 2018, we left Mexico just over 4 years after arriving there, having completed a big death and rebirth incubation process for me personally and for us as a community, and moved to Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Victoria is a beautiful city on Vancouver Island, surrounded by water, with the sleeper grid energy of Lemuria. We suddenly had the Western and first world nation luxuries again of steady internet, a beautiful big house to share with all 5 of us, a language we were fluent in, and a new lucrative income earning opportunities, with Raphael revisiting for a time his long-term experience in painting contracting, along with growing earnings from sessions. Being back in Canada helped me ground into my service of love in a deeper way and integrate all the consciousness shifts I had experienced in Mexico. I felt guidance many times over these years of service to just be myself in every way possible and to share from that place. So that's what I provided women in session space, bridging to them ways to also discover what being themselves actually means, and to the parts of them that had other strategies, traumas, and conditionings contrary to the expression of their authentic essence. The Soulful Heart healing process and paradigm that I now offer to you and share about in this book arose out of these sessions and from my own personal process, along with those of my community as well, even as it continues to evolve with every person who shares in this offering. The inner protector the part who protects us as well as other parts of us, became the key to the process and the beginning place for nearly everyone to start with in their process. The gatekeeper, the part who holds our soul access and acts as a guardian to the veil of our consciousness, was an energy I had been working with for several years, yet really has only been becoming clearer to me over the last few years as more souls connect with theirs. The parts work applies to this life trauma and also can be effectively used to heal quantum level soul patterns, which has been fascinating to me. Even after hundreds of sessions and dozens of group calls and hosting an in-person gathering with a dozen people in 2019, I am still learning and growing with every opportunity to serve this process with others. Every session helps to seed SoulFullHeart into this world, as does every time someone engages with a guided meditation video or takes in our writings. Collaboration and service of love leads to more inspired clarity, even as it is always fluid and open to changing. I do feel that there is universal access that we all have to these parts of ourselves and to our own soul, although whether or not this is the means for your healing during Ascension is definitely an individual draw and choice. In this book, I am offering what feels like a necessary overview of the SoulFullHeart process as a point of view, a paradigm, and a way of life based on these years of personal healing and service to others. It represents a cosmology that begins with the necessary fragmentation of divine source, individuating out into the Divine Mother and Father, the archangels, the soul monad groups, the metasoul, and finally to you and me in our third dimensional 3D selves into distinct parts or sub-personalities. I believe this cosmology is new, unique, and not available as a distinct offering anywhere else yet that I've seen presented. What I am offering here is not just a therapy or a spiritual practice, yet rather a consciousness, the way that I have lived my life in community for all these years with my beloved mate, Jelelle Awen, and others who have been drawn to share in this with us. It is truly cutting edge in that it is responsive to the most current discoveries of how to heal and transform at quantum levels, along with what is continually being disclosed about our cosmic and galactic origins. It is not based solely on anyone else's teachings or modalities, even as it has been inspired by some of them. I believe you will find a unique SoulFullHeart twist to every topic that I share with you, and to come to recognize and hopefully resonate with more as you take it in. And all of what is offered in this book is with the humble energy of near as I can tell, and not as any absolute truth about reality. See if what I am offering resonates for you. If it makes your heart soar, your soul awaken, and your mind activate, then I am reflecting your soul's truth too. Your truth and my truth are dancing. If not, then you will probably not keep listening and put it away. Let go of anything that doesn't feel like you. I don't feel anyone who does not resonate is left with any second best, but rather that their soul is leading them where they are meant to be, which is undoubtedly what is best for them. And deeply honoring your truth, I get to more passionately embrace and offer mine to those who are drawn. I am not asking you to believe anything, nor do I spend much effort or energy to convince you of the truth or rightness of what I am sharing here. I don't present extensive or really any research in this book, nor present other authors' points of view in quoted texts to support my sharings. As I said, I trust that what I am offering will resonate as your higher self's truth, or it will not. Either way, the preciousness of what I am offering, the genuine place I feel it from, the lived in and loved in reality that it provides, and the true transformation that I and others have experienced from the process all remains intact. The invitation to deep self-discovery that it offers always remains open and waiting for possible future relevance and interested engagement with you. Thank you for being open to this point of view, this way of life, and this new way of seeing, feeling, and processing reality. May it lead you to new discoveries of self and soul, and the experience of yourself as the infinite love in sacred human form that you are. Love, Jelelle Awen, June 2020. The Cycle of Fragmentation. In the beginning, you are of the whole divine. You are the whole. There is no separation between you and all the other divine sparks. There is no you there. There is no me. There is no we. The divine is all, and all is the divine. To be the essence of divine is to know nothing of dissolution. It is to know nothing of isolation. It is to know nothing of segregation. It is to know nothing of separation. The divine is in this state of wholeness for infinity. It is complete with itself for time beyond time. It is infinite love in infinite love with itself and all that is and ever will be. Eventually, the divine begins to wonder. It begins to become curious. It begins to ponder about what it would be like to exist with something else, to experience an other to relate with, to experience itself with something else and in response to something else, to be something else beyond everything that is. So with an energy of completely curious playfulness, the divine begins to split itself off into separate sparks of alive consciousness without losing or diffusing any of its essence in doing so. The source of pure light that the divine has always been begins to prism off into many rays of light with differing frequencies. It is not just the source of all life and all light, like an unwaveringly bright sun. It is also now a rainbow expressing life in an individuated spectrum of tones and colors. The divine continues to create fragments of itself in order to know itself in new ways, in order to experience more experiences through the process of being fragmented rather than whole, in order to experience more withness. The divine creates divine Father expressions of itself, experimenting with a polarized energy that is different from itself. It creates divine Mother expressions of itself that are different still from the divine Father ones, yet somehow complementary in a wonderful and new way. The divine Father masculine and the divine Mother feminine are two halves of the same whole. They are mated. They are paired. And the divine is pleased with these energies and curious about how they will relate with each other now that they have been put asunder. It is curious about how they will dance with each other and what the results will be of this union. These pure divine Father energies are of leading, penetrating, activation, and more. These pure divine Mother energies are of responding, being, receiving, integration, and more. The divine Father and divine Mother proceed to mate with each other and birth divine offspring from their union. These divine children take the form of the archangels. They choose expressions as either more like divine Father or more like divine Mother. The differences between them are very subtle. These very high vibrational angel children are so close to the divine that there isn't much sense of separation there. The divine looks at them and sees so readily its own reflection. Their expression is only a slightly altered expression of itself. There doesn't seem to be quite enough density and separation into polarity yet for truly interesting and unknown new dynamics to unfold. This leads to more divine playing, more experimenting, more fragmenting. Branching out of the archangels, the next wave of divine sparks form many groups, known as the monads or soul family groups. Each monad contains many, many other sparks which form into a soul family. This is the first family experience, although we are not quite yet aware of this as an individuated consciousness. The soul monads vibrate at a very high frequency of oneness and unity consciousness. Each soul family within the monad is an identical twin to the other in the sense of how alike they are in awareness and in expression. Each spark in the soul family monad group chooses a divine Father expression or a divine Mother expression. some are whole at this level of frequency and decide to split into two parts, one feminine and one masculine. This is the experience of what I call counterpart soulmates, or what is called by others twin flames. Although that has often been taken too literally in the interpretation of it through the filtering of our density. It is this frequency of soul monad resonance that many tap into at some level when you call someone a soul family member, or when you have a feeling of deep, unexplainable connection with someone who you have just met or even have spent decades with. The divine experiences much learning from the archangels and then from the soul monad groups. Yet also, the divine notices that they are still very much like each other. From one to the other, the differences are refined rather than broad. Oneness consciousness creates a consistent, unified quantum field of the now to hold them all in peaceful coexistence with each other. The divine then feels there is another fragmentation needed to create a truly unique and individual consciousness from its whole, to move from the subtle to the more obvious, to go to the next level of individuation and separation, just to see and experience what will happen. The divine also realizes that it needs to gift every fragment of itself with a free will consciousness, the ability to choose and make decisions without any influence from the divine itself, as well as without any diminishment of its divine essence. Both are true as divine begets divine. So another wave of fragmentation out of the soul families occurs that creates the first expression of being an individuated consciousness out of or separate from, at least what feels all too noticeably separate from, the divine. This is what can now be called your soul. Or, to differentiate it further, I've been offered to call it your metasoul. Your metasoul is the source of you as a spark of uniqueness. Not yet your specific personality and form expression as it is now in your life. Yet rather, your metasoul is the pure source of your soul expression in a much higher vibrational frequency than your current one. You do not share your metasoul with another soul or anyone else. Your metasoul is individuated, yet it is still consciously connected in unity consciousness frequencies to divine source. Your metasoul is also aware of its soul family monad origins. It receives supportive transactional energies from the archangels, Divine Mother, and Divine Father. Your metasoul is also what is referred to as your higher self, although it is not a self at all. This is your I am essence. To make things even more interesting, your metasoul chooses then to fragment off into even more in order to experience itself in many divergent ways. It creates fragments of itself to express into many different timelines, lifetimes, and eras of time. Dialing up a range of specific expressions, it also selects varying settings, places, species, and even planets to birth into. There is a range of dimensional consciousness expressions of your metasoul as well, from two-dimensional, 2D, to three-dimensional, 3D, to much higher, which provides you with your multi-dimensional access. Your metasoul chooses specific timelines to experience and incarnate or birth into related to its growth. It has a specific frequency of divine essence to express. There is a particular color and tone of the rainbow from the divine prism that it wants to reflect. Every timeline expression, every incarnation into a physical body form is chosen by your metasoul for a reason, connected to the evolution of its growth. No incarnation of your metasoul is truly a prison or a trap, in the sense that the metasoul chooses it, signs up for it, you could also say, on a higher self level, as an exercise in expression of the free will gifted to it by the divine. Your metasoul makes choices about what it will experience in each lifetime, which soul themes are expressing, which challenges are explored, what wounds from traumas to experience and heal. Your metasoul also chooses cultures, religions, genetics, gender, birth family, and much more to experience in varying lifetimes. It is also choosing from collective and archetypally sourced sacred wounds that it is helping to heal through personal experience, even as the metasoul has also participated in furthering wounding on the shadow side of divine expression. Each fragment of your metasoul in different lifetimes can be related to as a metasoul sister or brother, depending on gender expression. Their timeline existence is happening in the now, not in the past or in ancient times or as a past life. The metasoul source itself exists outside of linear time, in the quantum field of the now. Even if some of the timelines are connected to consciousness realities, such as 3D consciousness, that believes time is linear, can be measured, and is finite. These metasoul brothers and sisters, or metas for short, feel very similar to you, like a soul family sibling. However, because they may live on other planets, galaxies, and in other dimensions, their experience of reality is usually very different from yours. Your metas may be vibrating at much higher frequencies than your 3D-based Earth human timeline. Or they may be experiencing traumatic experiences that cause them to vibrate in suffering and fear much lower than yours. The divine notices that as more fragmentation happens at the metasoul level, there is more occurrence of what seems to be the opposite of what its essence is as pure, infinite love. This denser, energetic occurrence comes to be known as fear. Fear is the result of a forgetfulness that sets in as the metasoul splits off into different dimensional consciousness lifetimes and moves vibrationally farther away from divine source. Fear is the result of metasoul aspects that no longer consciously remember that they are sparks of infinite love from the divine. Fear is the result of the pain of separation. Your metas experience many things, both difficult and blissful, during their lifetimes. The painful experiences begin to cause traumatic reactions that create karmic wounds. These karmic wounds are held by the metas as they move through varying experiences of polarity and duality, as they truly experience more and more separation consciousness from the divine. A veil of amnesia is chosen by your metasoul to amplify this experience of separation in order to truly experience what it was like and to learn from it. Each metasoul aspect that chooses 4D consciousness and lower forgets that it came from the same metasoul source. It forgets about all of its metasoul brothers and sisters living in other lifetimes and timelines. The only lifetime it can experience is its own, in a tunnel vision, blinded kind of perception filtering that can't see and make the bigger connections to its metasoul any longer. Your metas also forget the unity consciousness experience of complete resonance with their soul monad family group. They disconnect from their divine mother and divine father as loving parents, and from the archangel's complete and total support of them. This allows the metas, again, to go fully into whatever timeline experience they are in, to completely immerse into it. A particular aspect of the metasoul is chosen to guard and watch over the veil of amnesia in all of the metasoul lifetimes. It is chosen to retain awareness and consciousness of the existence of the metasoul as an individuated soul source. This aspect is what we have discovered in our SoulFullHeart process as the gatekeeper. And I have met many gatekeepers over the years, including several of my own. And it seems to be that each metasoul has one. The gatekeeper can also express in a range of dimensions and take different forms, shapes, and even energy in these dimensions. Your gatekeeper has chosen to remain conscious of all of the incarnations of your metasoul in order to keep the veil in place between them. The gatekeeper is usually very lonely because they can't really relate and engage with any of the metasoul aspects or their timelines. The gatekeeper is in a limbo world, not in the higher dimensions of the archangels or of the soul monad groups, not in the worlds of the metasoul aspects either, and usually not connected in any dynamic way with the individual souls, as in you, for whom they act as a gatekeeper over, at least not until you become conscious of them and begin to bridge to their world. I have come to call this world the gatekeeper's realm, and it can often be accessed through a visualization journey during meditation into a large cavern with many tunnels leading off of it. The tunnels represent the many lifetimes of that particular metasoul, and the gatekeeper can be found there, guarding access to them. The gatekeeper is tasked with keeping the veil of forgetfulness in place until such a time as your metasoul is ready to awaken and remember its unity consciousness reality again. This current timeline of awakening and ascension in the now seems to be waking up many more gatekeepers who can then start to lift the veil and offer portals to the metasoul aspects. The final fragmentation happens then for those metasoul aspects that choose a third-dimensional 3D consciousness expression experienced through you, fragmenting into parts of the self or subpersonalities. 3D, a denser dimensional consciousness, has been the prevailing one on Earth for tens of thousands of years. It is a highly polarized consciousness of good versus evil, right versus wrong, black versus white. 3D is oriented to the 5 senses and what we hear, see, smell, touch, and taste as the only valid ways to process reality. 3D is not a lesser consciousness, even though we often relate to it as such. It is necessary and sacred to the divine's current exploration of itself, yet not without what can sure seem like traumatic consequences either. As your metasoul consciousness interfaces with 3D consciousness when you are born, it begins to fragment into different parts and sub-personalities of self-expression based on the experience it has and the templating it receives from birth family. You fragment into these parts and then become stuck in their consciousness to the degree they have undigested trauma and pain. It is a natural survival mechanism response of your consciousness to form into these parts of self, such as the inner protector, inner child, inner teenager, and more. Not a psychiatric or mental illness or disorder has been previously believed. It is not a mental illness to fragment in this way into different aspects of the self, yet rather a reflection on a micro level of the bigger fragmentation out of divine source that has been happening all along. 3D density and duality, polarity, amplify and supports this fragmentation of self. This fragmentation into parts of the self is one that we all seem to go through. It is necessary in order to survive in the denser 3D reality. It is a natural inclination for our souls as we've been engaged in this fragmentation process since our initial and original split off from the divine. It is another expression of separation, individuation, and the experience of duality at the emotional body and psyche or subconscious levels. All of this fragmentation out from divine source is an ever ongoing and continuous process. It will continue to be for as long as the divine feels that it is a useful and interesting experiment. It is always learning and always growing through the experience of every one of its divine sparks, in whatever degree of unity or separation they vibrate at. It is always in complete support of their expression, no matter what they choose for that to be, as they exercise the free will gifted to them by the divine. Whether polarized to fear or polarized to love, every divine spark is given the choice in every moment, to freely choose either of them, or a spectrum of experience in between them. You, as a spark from the divine, are given this choice of being polarized to fear or to love in your current expression, in your current lifetime, in your current now. You are given the choice to remember in every moment your origins as a spark from the divine, to remember your family connection to your soul monad family and the blueprint offered by the archangels, to feel yourself as an expression of the Divine Mother and the Divine Father, and to reclaim yourself as a child of the divine. This choice of remembering is the process of awakening that is currently going on in this lifetime. Awakening is the conscious reconnection to your metasoul, higher self frequencies, and more expression of these in your daily life. This remembrance also occurs naturally as you consciously remembered with each part of yourself as you get to know and relate with each subpersonality within you. As above, so below. This is your reconciliation with the divine, beginning from you as you know yourself, reaching out and connecting to what we could call your higher and lower selves. The divine looks at the beauty of all this splitting off, the convergings and the coming togethers, the forgetting and the remembering, the pairing ups and the moving aways, as expressed by its divine spark children. It notices with reverence and awe how fear finds its way back to becoming love when motivated by love, even from the greatest of distances and the deepest of densities. And the divine knows then that this dualistic experiment is right and good and worth even the ultimately temporary experience of pain and fear, as it gets to rediscover love again and again through its sacred children's awakenings, journeys, and ongoing discoveries.